Jeremy, looking back, Jeremy Walker running 175 kilometers around King Island over a weekend. Looking back, look back.
Yeah, well, the first thing was that it ended up being 195 kilometres. So I said to Jack Nacita before, our direct teacher with me, that my mapping skills was obviously not up to scratch, because it was about 20 or 30 k's more than I thought, which posed some challenges in the head when I got to 175 k's and knew I had 20 odd k's to go. So pretty blown away with the community as a first reflection. I haven't had too much time to think about the places I got to and the scenery I got to see, but the main reflection is how crazy it is that the community can come together so well and support someone doing something for a good cause.
You started anti-clockwise, so you started in Curry at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it was about 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Me and my mate Will set off, and he took me down to the harbour, and then I carried on from there. So about 2 hours in the dark. And I got a long way in early on, so I think when people woke up in the morning and they had the GPS tracker to look at, they potentially thought, oh, he might be able to have a bit of a crack here.
Did you have the element of wondering, not taking a risk, don't start too quick, don't start slow, or start slow, it's to save your energy? How much was that impacting?
Yeah, it was more a time thing. The morning, I like running in the morning when it's dark. I'm quicker and faster when you're fresher, obviously, so it was more about getting as many done as I could at a reasonable time. So I think I got to my first stop at 7 or 6:37, and that was 20 k's in. So I felt like 20 k's off the total before 7 o'clock was pretty handy for my head. And that was the same with the first marathon, getting that done out of the way before 10 o'clock-ish. And then I had 2 days essentially still to get the rest done. So I didn't worry too much about the pace. When I could run quick, I ran quick. When I had to hobble around the rocks and walk on the soft sand, I did that. So
how were you worried about the risk of injury going around rocks and whatever, and better be careful, maybe don't run but walk, because I don't want to end up...
Yeah, for sure. And I said to the people that ran with me, like I walk up hills and I'm going to walk or skip through the rocks. Like, I'm not in it to break any records. A couple of people asked what pace I was running at, and I had no idea. I was just using the terrain or using my body through the terrain as best as I could. So the injury part, through the rookeries, I was a little bit concerned, but had some people with me that have done those areas before that was super helpful. So did it as safely as I could. The weekend before the run, I went through near Saldini's area, and I had a bit of a scare climbing up a rock face, which I definitely shouldn't have been up. So changed the route a little bit with some guidance from people in that area too. So it became safer the more recce's I did each kind of weekend.
Then you get to Narracoopa, your first real break, and I remember when we spoke there, I thought you were definitely still in a good nick.
Yeah.
You'd already indicated that it was a bit stop and go when I asked you about your rhythm. Hey, don't you break your rhythm? Did you stay a little long in Narracoopa, sort of to get back into it?
The one thing and same as the pace and the running and the injuries, I didn't want to let the running get in the way of people coming out and supporting. So there was lots of young ones that I take for soccer on a Friday afternoon that were there to hang out and support, and I think getting around them was as important as doing the run itself. So I ended up getting the old man to give me a massage there as well. So he gave me a little tune-up, and then I was back on the road. Probably an hour stop was probably my longest. I was stiff getting back going after that one.
Then you decided that, because your plan was, I believe, to have a rest during the night at Marta Lavinia.
Yeah.
But you had a long stop at Sea Elephant, we could see on the tracker. What happened?
Yeah, I didn't get to Martha, so I set off from Narracoopa. It would have been about 7 o'clock, I'd say, so a couple of hours of light to go. But it was a think it was a 4 o'clock low, so by 7 o'clock it had been coming in a little bit. So I did the whole Narracoopa bit to the blowhole. Just before the blowhole, the tide had come in quite high. The beach got that slant on it again, started becoming pretty soft. So there was, I think, 3 or 4 people fishing there at the time, and I just said, look, I'm probably going to get to Cowper, which was the second last stop of the day. And I knew there was a campground there, so I phoned into the crew and said, let's pull up stumps there. And I managed to do that section from Blowhole to Cowper, which was only maybe 3 or 4 Ks, but it took me like a good couple of hours. The flies came out at sundown, and it was just not fun. That was probably the challenging part, head-wise, was that section. Just thinking, what am I out here doing this for at 9:30 at night, and flies buzzing around everywhere, and just felt like an idiot.
So how long did you go and sleep for then after that?
So I rolled into the campsite about 10 o'clock. Mum, Dad and my mate Will had cooked up a little pasta, so I was a little bit rude at that point, but I just shot straight into the tent, zipped it up. They handed me a chocky milk and some pasta. I ate that and slept till 4 o'clock in the morning, I think.
Okay.
And Will had, so I got a decent, 10 hours or so of kip. Will had the coffee and the peanut butter and jam sandwich ready for me in the morning, and we got on the road at, I think, 4:30 that morning.
But did it upset you in some sort of way that you thought, I wanted to be further? Because I seem to remember that you said the plan was to be at Cape Wickham Sunday morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Does that then upset you? Do you get angry? Do you get...
Yeah, for sure. So when I rolled into the tent, I'd done a couple of things. I watched the Imperial put a video up of me coming into Narracoopa. That was the first time I got a bit emotional about it all. I think it was 90 odd Ks in, and I was spent. At that point, I didn't want to disappoint anyone by not continuing. So those kind of thoughts came into the head, and as I said, got a bit emotional. Then I was walking into the campsite, and I got my maps up and started doing the math of what would happen tomorrow if I didn't do the 30 Ks, which put me in a bit of a hole in terms of mentality and thinking I couldn't do it. But I woke up again, so 4:30, got on the road, and I felt really good, running pretty fast. But then again, the tide came in, so my whole Sunday was not a race against the clock, but definitely behind the 8 ball.
Then you decide that because, as you mentioned, and particularly in that first stint, the first 90 Ks, you had quite a few people running with you.
Yeah.
There were some people that were going to run with you from pretty much from Cape Wickham.
Yeah.
But I believe you, and you confirm or not, but did you send out a message, almost went out, that he wants to put his headsets on, he wants to be left alone, let him go?
Yeah.
Was it like, please leave me alone, I need to get through this by myself?
Nah, that came off the back of getting to Cowper at Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
And knowing potentially that I wasn't going to make it. In my head, I thought that I can't do it, based on being 30 Ks behind, and as I said, my mapping was 20 or 30 Ks short as well. So I sent that message out to Robbie and Maze Smith. I guess from a protective point, for me being able to get through it, chuck the headphones on, it became a point of the most important things was the food, the water, and the running rhythm. And anything outside of that was kind of twisting my head into different places that I didn't really need to go to. So I just wanted to get, same as Saturday morning, just to get 30, 40 Ks in and get it out of the way so I'm back on track. So it definitely wasn't like a get out of here, I don't want to see anyone. It was more like I need to get a chunk done for my head so I know I can potentially do it tomorrow.
But then isn't it also, Jeremy, that sometimes it's good to sort of isolate yourself from the rest of the world?
Yeah.
It's your battle, it's your struggle, get through it.
Yeah, and I knew people were tracking, and I knew people had that rough map of the timings, like 6 o'clock at Wickham, and I didn't want people to be waiting around for a particular time. Like I said to you already, I've put a rough time there, but I mean, I was out by 3 or 4 hours in the end, all of that Sunday. So I didn't want to let people down waiting, but yeah, just needed to lock in and try and get some Ks done.
Then on top of that, you end up with a mild or hard, I don't know, you tell me, with a bit of a knee injury. What happened?
Yeah, so I think because of the terrain, obviously running the same direction around the island, it's all on quite a big slant, especially the beaches. So my right knee copped a bit more than the rest of my body. So I think at the point where I got to 175k or probably 160k's and I thought I should be pretty much home, that kind of broke down some barriers that I'd locked myself in so I could get it done. And then I just started feeling the knee and it was locking up, and did lots of walking and trying to give it a couple of whacks and I guess getting through to the next checkpoint so I could take some Panadols and get some treatment done on it. But it's funny when you get yourself in a zone, anything that, so a physical soreness or a distraction that came up just ripped all the walls down and got myself into a pretty dark hole, and again thinking I couldn't get it done.
How did you get yourself out of that element of, am I going to make this? Am I going to have enough energy? Gosh, should I give up?
Yeah.
How do you work yourself out of that?
So the two that were the worst were the Saturday night, and that was just getting some sleep. So mentally, I think I just needed a rest and a reset and not really have to think about it. And then the other was Bungaree, where Mum and Dad were going to be, but Jack Nacita was there waiting. And at that point, the knee was buggered, locking up, and I was walking slowly. He got me there, chucked some ice on it, took some Panadol, chucked some physio cream on it, and then Jack said, all right, let's go. And it wasn't like people were forcing me to do it, but it was, again, back to the disappointment of someone's been here, they're ready to go, just suck it up and get moving. So
was that a lot of sucking up?
Yeah. Well, it felt like it just had to get done. So at Porky's was the same situation. In my head, I'd said, I'm just going to go to the cheese factory and go the road on the way home, just so I could get it done. And then the amount of people that were there, and they all had their runners on and their running gear on, ready to run that coastal track. So again, I was like, well, looks like I'm running the coastal track because you're all here to do it with me. So lots of moments like that and lots of people running with me were super helpful.
Where did you feel, at what stage, where on the track did you feel, yes, I'm going to make it? You're not going to stop me now, I'm going to make it.
It was just one point, and it was like 3Ks to home. So running over Ocean Dunes Golf Course, I do that stretch quite a bit all the way through past Porky's. But at Ocean Dunes, going up through the farms and then along the golf course itself, I knew exactly how long I had to go. So at that point, I could let myself just relax and enjoy as much as I could the last little bit.
At that point, what is harder in the running, mentally or physically?
When I knew that I was there and could get it done, it was just the physical. Like my knee was in a bit of pain every step, and if you see the footage, I'm not moving very well at all.
Well, you were moving. That was the key point, I guess.
That's the thing. It was the point where I was just one foot in front of the other. So, I think I dropped. I said to a couple of people, there was probably 5 or 6 kids running with me at that point, and maybe 5 or 6 adults. And they were all chatting within themselves, a couple of questions to me, but I kind of dropped away a little bit and let myself enjoy that last little couple of Ks. So at that point, it was just whatever pain I was in, I'm just going to get through the finish line.
And how did that feel, crossing that finish line?
I'm not big on crowds and affirmations of achievements and stuff. I get quite uncomfortable with it, so I kind of head down, and potentially looks rude when you do it, I guess, but head down and not really take it all in because, it makes me a bit uncomfortable with the big crowds and stuff like that. So gave Mum and Dad a hug and then sat in the ambulance truck and got some tests done so I could just let it sink in slowly, I guess.
Is it also, Jeremy, when you think about it, is that where you're not feeling comfortable with that, is it also a little bit that you know for yourself that the state you're in, what you've done, what you achieved, it automatically makes you more vulnerable in a mental way.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing, and I can imagine that, is stand there crying in front of an audience.
Yeah, I guess it's always been for me with soccer as well. I just have never learnt to handle like really nice positive comments. And I knew with big crowds and doing something like that, they obviously come hand in hand with something like that. So it wasn't necessarily, I said to Jess Cox, because she was running with me, I actually said to that group, can you keep running with me so I don't have to just go in there by myself? Like, you've run with me this whole way, let's just go through it together.
But at least the last couple of 100 meters, step back, because otherwise you don't even see the man who achieved it.
Yeah, I know, and that's what they said, and fair enough. But that's what I mean. I'd rather, I guess, the eyes be off just the one person for that particular moment. Again, I'm not sure what it is, but I've never been good at taking on that praise, I guess.
Raising money for ME.
Yeah.
Have you achieved what you tried to achieve?
Yeah, so we set a $5,000 total, or a target, and that got knocked down before I set off on the run, which was pretty cool. That was a target without knowing what could be done and not asking too many people in the community. But once they got around it, I think we got up to 10.5 grand at the moment, pushing 11 after some cash donations. So the company or the organisation eMerge that we're sending the money to, we're super grateful, and their projects can continue next year because of that kind of money. So
you dare to say it was worth it?
Definitely worth it, yeah. And I'm looking forward to watching some footage and actually being able to reflect on it all a little bit better than at the moment. But
well, let's finish it off, Jeremy, with you never feel comfortable about all the praising and people cheering on.
Yeah.
See this as a massive big cheer because you achieved something.
Thank you,
well
man.
done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.